Welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces, but if you don't know, Shieldfield Artworks is an arts organisation based in Newcastle, and we're kind of interested in art, community and faith and how those three things come together. And the Unseen project has been going along for a few weeks now, but this is only our second artist. And it's kind of an invitation within this time when the gallery can't be open to kind of explore how art can be audio and kind of visual. So what we've done is we've got 10 artists and they will be kind of partaking in this kind of artistic audio relay race where each artist makes a visual artwork based on an audio recording the previous artist describing their visual artwork. So we're really interested in this kind of interplay between the visual and the audio. And of course, at the minute, we're really experiencing art in a very, very different way. We can't go to gallery, we can't see things physically. A lot of the things we see are through a screen. So we really wanted to explore that, but also have a place of conversation within that. So we're having these Wednesday lunchtime kind of events where every Wednesday an artist will reveal a new piece of artwork. And this week it is Linda Willcox, who is a kind of printmaker, painter, collage artist, who is specifically really interested in nature and how nature kind of makes her feel and exploring nature in all its forms. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at that brand new artwork that Linda has put together in response to that audio recording. Linda and I are going to kind of maybe discuss it a bit, and then we'll discuss it as a group. And then finally, the audio which Linda based her artwork on will be revealed at the end. And then right at the end of this process, after a whole 10 artists have made work and recorded about their artwork, we're going to reveal all the visual artworks together and all the audio artworks together as well. Yeah, so I am going to now show you Linda's artworks, and I would really encourage you, I know we spend a lot of the time in front of screens at the minute, but I'd really encourage you to spend time looking at the detail within the artwork. I often find myself really flicking through screens and looking at things really, really quickly, but I'm purposefully going to leave up the images for 10-20 seconds, and I would encourage you to not just look at the image as a whole, but cast your eye kind of left to right over the image and think and consider about how you're absorbing it and how you're absorbing the colours and the artwork as a whole. So I'll just do that. Linda has done 2 artworks. One of them is called Touching Trees Earth, and the second one is called Touching Trees Air. And there are some detailed shots of the second artwork within there. So I will just do that flappy thing of sharing my screen. Please nod if you can see this and it has worked. Great. So yeah, just 20-30 seconds looking at each photo, and then we'll come together and I'll have a chat with Linda. So I'm hoping you all saw 5 different pictures. Yeah, okay, great. Hi Linda, how are you?
Okay, very nervous, but
Okay, don't be nervous. This is just a chat between us. So, yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the process of making artwork, and
yeah,
we're really, really glad to have you, and we've been really impressed by the beautiful paintings you've made in such a short turnaround. We had a chat earlier today, and you were talking about how much kind of nature is really infused in your work, and how you find nature really inspirational, and how you kind of think of nature as a mode of communication. I wondered if you kind of want to start off talking about that.
well, yeah, I think that's where I feel most creative. That's where I feel most at ease, is just being out in nature. I'm definitely not an urban kind of, if I go urban sketching, I would sketch people and trees and flowers, and not the built environment. So yeah, definitely I feel very kind of connected to nature when I'm outside, and inspired. I think all my emotions can flow freely when I'm out in the natural world. Trying to have a look at my notes now, trying to remember what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, my background is I've always had sort of creative things going on in my life. Even though I'd be working in other things, I'd be doing some creative things. I did garden design, so there's the nature thing coming out again. And yeah, sketching outdoors. I often take a sketchbook when I go walking and do some sketches. It may result in some art, or it may just, end up as being part of a sketchbook. But yeah, I'm quite inspired, and then I want to get it down on paper, what I feel about what I'm seeing. So often just kind of marks on paper that get the emotion, or get the elements of the weather. And then I like to let the weather take its part as well. If it's raining, or the wind makes the paint dry quicker, or yeah, sort of a bit of happy accidents as well, not all controlled by me.
Yeah, I like that you say like you like the wind to be part of it. I feel like you don't like nature to be perfect, or
I think it's already perfect. I think, yeah.
Erica's just asking, do you usually paint outdoors? Have you ever kind of experimented with painting in nature?
Yeah, I have. I prefer to sketch outdoors and then paint indoors. I have, especially in lockdown, I had to kind of, I think everything just changed. Everybody's kind of creativity changed a bit, but I would take kind of a little box of paints, or often just, watercolor pencils, that kind of thing. But what I tend to do is just take a black non-water soluble pen and kind of do sketches or bits. And just kind of, well, that's kind of like more like urban sketches of people that I'm interested in, or just jot on bits of color and see what happens, kind of let things dry. That's my impressions of things. So yeah, I've tried painting outside, not done an awful lot of it. Tend to do sketches, and just let things happen, splashes and runs. And the non-permanent pen is great, because you can just kind of spray water on and then let it do its thing and mess about with it, and so it's all very messy, but that's the kind of art I do.
Yeah, Erica was just asking as well, when you paint indoors and you're talking about nature, do you use photographs of nature, or do you just use like what's in your head, what you remember from nature?
I would usually use either photographs or sketches.
Okay,
so I would use photographs, but I'll often just use them on my phone, so I'm not really painting details. It's mainly the light and shadow that I paint, the shapes that come out, especially the light coming through trees. I'm very drawn to kind of silhouettes, light, or something like that. I'll do a sketch, and then I might use that as the start of a painting. But I'm not into detail and doing kind of photorealism at all. I'm not drawn to that at all. It's more how I feel about it and the atmosphere, the feeling I get from, without sounding too pretentious, it's
That,
kind of, yeah, the
doesn't
feeling I
sound
get when I'm out there. I
pretentious.
feel very happy when I'm out in nature, and that hopefully that comes through.
Yeah, I think that definitely comes through, and I think it is a feeling that comes through. It's not like a repeat of nature, or you're trying to repeat a kind of photograph. It's definitely a feeling. I don't know who it was, but someone in the chat just asked, was the weather different when you created your two artworks? Because they seem really different. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That, so the green one, the tree one, is where have I got it? Yeah, I'll show you it. So just so you can see the size of it. So that's just quite small, that one. Yeah, I mean, it was a bright day, cloudy, but you know, the sun was trying to get through. The sun was kind of I forget where it was. It must have been over here, yeah. And going on the tree trunk. And again, it was just the feelings. It's kind of the light and the dark, and the light coming through the trees. And I love this shape, kind of the shapes and the negative shapes that were produced. And it just felt great. There was water, there was a stream down here, and I just sat there, and I think I had a flask or something, and did some sketching and took some photos, and then this was the kind of the result.
I find that really interesting, because I've only so far seen that artwork on the screen, and I actually talked about this a bit earlier, but I haven't seen the scale of it up to now. So all I've seen is just this depiction of nature repeated again and again, but on a man-made object on a screen.
Right.
Again. And I think that's really interesting, because you're kind of thinking about this feeling of nature, and you're translating that into paint. But then how I'm experiencing that is through a screen. And I wonder, off the back of that, how did you find kind of working with Sharon's recording? Because obviously Sharon, last week, she produced kind of a sculpture, some prints and video work, and then audio described those. So you haven't actually seen, I'm guessing, Sharon's visual artwork, but you've heard about it. How did you find kind of trying to be inspired from an audio and then transforming that into a kind of visual, physical thing?
Yeah, it was tricky. I mean, it was partly understand. I must admit, I'm not the world's best technological expert by any means, and probably was originally, but recently have kind of fallen behind with that kind of thing. So I actually received the audio a bit late, so I had even less time to get organized and do my artwork than probably most people, for whatever, it's obviously my fault eventually, but I'm not beating myself up too much about it. I've got a lot going on, so yeah, I just kind of got over that.
I would like to clarify this, Sarah.
Yes, sorry, I'm not. It's yeah.
No. We had a bit of a mysterious technical fault, which resulted in emails kind of getting missed. So it's, yeah, we don't quite know how it's happened, but
I think it's sorted now.
We've sorted it out, but yeah, no, I can imagine that did add a lot of stress. And
yeah, so kind of two things. I got the content of her audio, but I also had this massive, you know, this feeling of, oh my God, you know, I was just totally devastated that I'd messed it up and that I'd kind of cut my time in half. So that was the first thing, was the feeling of, you know, just devastation. I was, I really annoyed at myself. So then I just kind of decided to get all of that out on paper. I just wrote down all my emotions about how I was feeling about that, about, you know, myself, the tech, whatever. And then I went away and had a big piece of chocolate cake and some tea, and kind of probably buoyed up by the sugar rush and the chocolate, felt a lot better about it, and decided that this was actually a brilliant opportunity. I'd been chosen to do this. I was so lucky, and lucky to be given this time when I could allow myself to be totally creative, because I'm not a full-time artist, you know, I'm self-taught. I just love creating. So there's that. So the thing that really came out of it was obviously from her audio, the main things were kind of breath and touch. That's what I got from it. So there's obviously the sound, you know, it's layered, but and there was also the I can't breathe was something that really stuck in my head. So that was also part of the downer. And then on the nice side, I was getting the breath, the touch, and that led me to think about just the whole thing about, without the visual, all the other senses are much more important. And that kind of, through quite a long-winded passage, led me to think about, you know, plants and how they communicate, and trees, and, you know, all and fungi, you know, the mycorrhizae. And that's what the artworks are really about. The earth one is about, you know, they're communicating in the rhizosphere, how they communicate with each other, with the fungi, and they help each other out, and also with the insects in there. And then also the branches, they can fuse if they're together without any intervention. You know, that does happen in nature. And then the second piece, I'll quickly get, where is it? Because that's a little bit, and you can probably see there's quite a bit more texture in it. I don't know if you could see the texture with the sparkle in it. So that really was thinking about the volatile organic compounds that plants release into the atmosphere, and they communicate with each other and with insects through that. And we have no idea about all of this going on. And again, that was a kind of the unseen aspect. It was not only unseen, but unfelt, unheard, everything. We are, you know, we're unaware. Well, we're now aware, we're becoming more aware, but that was the inspiration behind the artworks. And that was just really, yes, that was a definite joyful, you know, a summer. Well, it wasn't summer, it was spring, but it was when it was that, you know, those few hot days we had. And it was the collage is also kind of words to do with traveling, so it's kind of speeding the messages on their way, and I could just imagine them flying through the air and being very joyful, and not just communicating messages but chatting like we do. I could imagine them just being happy and, you know, flying as they are now all through the air around us. So that's where that came from.
Great. That's, yeah, I love that you turned communication from breath into kind of communication through nature, and communication that we don't really think about. We might experience it, but we don't really think about it or see it clearly. So yeah, that's really exciting. I was going to open up if anyone else had any questions for Linda. If maybe you raise your hand and then we can just kind of unmute you. I think that'll be a better system.
What's your favourite time of year for all the flower paintings and being out in the rain and wind and things like that?
Gosh, I don't think I've really got a favourite time of year. I've been out right through the winter this year. Just get really wrapped up, take a flask, and go out anyway. And actually, I really like the stark, you know, where you've just got the two colours. Like I'll do this kind of thing when it's just black and white. I'll just kind of do very kind of sparse things. I don't like being too hot, or with the I get migraines, so the sun in my eyes can bother us. I'll often be wearing a cap just to keep the sun out of my eyes, so not being too hot. But then again, in trees and things, you're generally sheltered from the sun, so I haven't really got one, as long as I'm not too cold. But hopefully if I've got a nice coat. And I take Wheaties in my pocket sometimes, you know, those that you put in the microwave, the little wheat bags, put them in my pockets, and then with my flask, that helps. And you're just not out too long, I suppose, just stepped a little while. Are you inspired to paint your own garden? Yeah, certainly I take photographs of it because I'm a bit obsessed. I am in the process of designing my own garden, my little garden at the front here, and I've got an allotment, so I'm going to design a bit of a garden there as well, hopefully. And yeah, so I'll take photographs of little plant combinations that work really well, and then sketch those, particularly with the light coming behind them, you know, backlit is quite nice.
I think Erica has a question.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because I'm not a nature girl at all, but I've been out there kind of doing, when I was a student, I went to do landscape painting, and I think it's quite scary for me, it's to think that from a vast landscape, you choose where to start. And I'm interested in kind of thinking that way. When you start a landscape, do you start from the horizon? Do you start from a tree, an object? Do you start from the light? How do you start an image?
I would start by what interests me. So if I look at something and I think I'm going to paint that, there's a reason. So I think, well, what is it that's drawn me to that image? What is it? Is it that line in the tree? Is it the stream? Is it the light? Is it the dark? Is it the sunlight coming through those leaves? And try and maybe you just do that bit. You know, in my sketches, I've got the bits that I've totally, you know, left out, the things that I'm not interested in. Just put the things that you're interested in, and then it gets, you know, like I might be interested in the zigzag there, the composition, and I just like put the, you know, the trees, the verticals here. So just put down what you really like, and maybe don't set yourself to do a whole landscape. Just do a sketch. Do a sketch of the little bit that you like. Forget about all of that around there, the buildings and the hills and the whatever's supposed to be really beautiful. Do the bit you like. Yeah, I would say paint the main thing. I mean, with the trees one, I think I started with the darks. I started with the lines. So the tree trunk and the line of the shadows and the line of the stream probably. And then just put in the colours that you see, that you feel. And don't be too bothered about detail. That's advice I would give you if you wanted to do landscape. I can't see the end of that one. Sorry, could somebody read out something?
It's from Lorraine. She says, I'm interested in your use of colour. Is it intuitive, and do you feel any constraints to stay with natural colour?
Well, anybody who's just been to the Painting for Fun session yesterday know that I'm not bothered about colours constraints at all. I did a green and purple robin yesterday, so definitely not constrained. But the colour, when I'm doing something like the natural world, I tend to just do the colours I see, which are possibly not always the ones that somebody else might see, but you know, I see probably quite a lot of colour in the landscape for some reason. So I might heighten the colour. I'll just put down what I like in there. And was I constrained with what? Sorry, what was the end? I've forgotten it again.
Do you feel constrained to stay with natural colour?
No, definitely. Yeah, no, just do whatever I think. If I, put in the colours that I like and that work.
So I think Bill has a question, and then I'm going to go to Alison Atkinson Phillips. So Bill's asked, do you have a favourite location?
Oh, probably the one I'm in at the time. And I think that I quite often think, oh, this is my happy place. You know, that's the phrase now, isn't it? But I've got quite a lot of happy places, and usually it's wherever I am, and I just think, oh, this is a lovely place, and I get comfy and I feel that's my happy place. But yeah, I've got several that I could go to right now, or I could pin on a map, and they're local to me generally. But then again, you know, places I've been on holiday, there have been special places there as well. So an awful lot of them, I would say. Always outside, or even on an abandoned piece of land. I really like when you're in a city or a town and you come across, you know, an abandoned little triangle that's not been used, and the brambles are growing over, and there's some wildflowers, and there might be an ash, a tree that's just grown up by itself, or a sycamore. I love that as well, and I think you can get just as much pleasure from that, and kind of a release of all your anxieties just by walking through that little piece of land, or sketching it, or looking at it.
I think it sounds like you like it when nature has taken over or crept in, or
yeah, I think you're right.
Been there a little bit. I think Alison Atkinson Phillips has a question.
Yeah, Linda, I love the texture of your paintings. It's a bit frustrating watching them through a screen because I don't think we're getting the full benefit of that. But just I noticed in the top corner of the second one, there's like a little bit of like newsprint or something underneath the paint. So I just wondered if that was kind of a conscious part of the painting, or just, I don't know, maybe an accident, or I don't know. I wanted to know. Well,
so I like collage anyway, and I often, even the the other one was painted on top of another painting, and I often like to let bits of it show through. I just see what happens. If I like it, I'll leave it there. But this is, yeah, I definitely did collage. I wanted texture in this, and these were actually separate prints, and then I've put them together and tried to kind of scrunch them up a little bit. But the newsprint is all pieces from the travel section of the newspaper, because I was thinking about travel and I was hoping to sort of speed these messages on their way. Yeah, that's so it was semi-intentional. Or sometimes if I'm doing I've got some snaps from somewhere on holiday, I'll try and bring newspapers back, or those supermarket leaflets that you get when you're on holiday, and try and bring those back, and then I'll try and put the ones from that appropriate language in, or something that's got some kind of connection. I'm really interested in putting in poetry as well, layers of poetry, and allowing some of the words to show through, to get that feeling. I'm really into poetry as well. So yeah, collage, leaves, flowers, bits of anything really, bit of earth.
I kind of think poetry's sometimes a form of collage as well. So it's interesting using poetry in collage, when sometimes, I don't know, I'm not an expert in poetry, but sometimes I think people pick little different bits and put them together in a poem.
You're right, it's so rich, isn't it, poetry?
Yeah.
There's so much in there, so dense.
Yeah. Louise had a question, which is, if you say you're not trained in art, when and how did you pick up your skills, and how much of it is just intuitive?
I would say most of it's intuitive, because I have been to, I've been to the odd evening class, workshops, that kind of thing. I tend to, I'm attracted to doing things like that. I love going out and learning from people, but I've never really found, exactly my niche, but I kind of gather a bit, like the collage thing again, gather from everywhere. And then in the end, I've realized that this is what I like, and I do my own thing. And I'm in a couple of art clubs, and I used to do things, and people, a lot of people kind of like just walk by and not really know what to say about my art, and I'd feel quite bad. But then now I'm kind of, I don't mind. This is what I like, and I'm happy with it. And everybody has their own thing that they like. Maybe they're more photorealist, and they think, oh, that's kind of like a child could have done that. But often if you look at things from a distance, I think that for example, when it was seen on screen, that's another thing about the screen thing. When it's seen on screen close up, you see lots of detail, but actually I would say it's meant to be viewed from, back there or further back. Or really, if you've got it close up on the screen, squint your eyes, and then you see the effect that you really want to get from it. It's not meant to be sort of seen in detail, it's meant to be seen from a distance. Sorry, digressed a bit there.
No, it's really interesting. I was just thinking that there's an artist, I was once at a kind of arts conference, and one of the artists said that everyone, artist and non-artist, should have 10 years to work out what kind of artist they are and what kind of art they're interested in. And I think that's really interesting, because I think sometimes, often when you say you're an artist, people are like, oh, what kind of art do you do? And in some ways, I've always felt that's a terrible question, because most artists are interested in loads of different stuff, and it takes 10 years is a long time, and it takes a long time to kind of hone it down. And some artists don't ever hone it down, and actually that's okay. That's a good thing, to be interested in lots of different things.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think there are loads of things I haven't explored yet. I've got so many ideas and things. That was why I was so happy to have this time to explore. And I've done more things. I did a bit of stitch, more printing than I've done in the past. Just allowed myself to play a bit more. And that's such a luxury, just really, to be kind of asked to do it, not just allowed to, but asked to experiment. And yeah, I'm sure there are loads of other things, and you'll change and pick up other ideas and move on.
Lydia.
I just had a question about your garden design, in terms of when you were practicing, did you draw the designs out in the style of your paintings, or how did that kind of work, that design style?
So you usually have to produce a plan, at least, you know, a plan view, sort of bird's eye view of the garden, so for spatially how many plants where, what's next to what's in certain conditions, sun, shade, etc. But then you would also just try and produce kind of like a sketchy image. So yeah, I would be doing things quite like my sketchbooks, quite like that, just the shapes of the plants, and give people an idea what it would look like from their window, or wherever they would be sitting, wherever their preferred place was. So if they had like a patio, I'd show the view from there, or the view from the road if they were bothered what other people thought. So yeah, I'd be doing kind of quite sketchy things like that. We were taught to do plans with colours, with coloured pencils, but I'm just too impatient to use coloured pencils, and I didn't think they looked too neat. I would put splashes of watercolour on. I think that was more my thing. But yeah, sketches and watercolours.
Does anyone have any other kind of questions or comments or things that have occurred?
Was there one about photography? I haven't worked out how to get chat up. This is brand new.
Seen one about photography.
Oh right, right.
Maybe I've missed something.
No, don't worry about it. I think Ken was just saying she was glad that I just said, you know, seeing things from a distance.
Oh yeah.
That's why I was thinking about photography with Ken.
Yeah, I think it's magic when you show that distance is it does make a difference.
It does.
Thank you.
Massive.
Thank you. It is amazing, isn't it? How we see things.
Or just squint and then, because you're only seeing a certain amount of things, you get the really important bits, don't you? And you know, your eyes don't see the detail. That's what I would do. I just kind of, you know, go like that, just look through half closed eyes, and you can see the really important things like the light and shade and what was attractive about that place.
Yeah, when you mentioned it, it made me think the other side of it, like the space we have, is it allowed us to see that way?
Yeah.
And or do we need to always remind ourselves that go further, or like go different direction, different angles?
Yes.
Thanks.
No, you're welcome. It just came to me because when I'd seen it on screen, I was thinking that wasn't really how I intended it to be seen. So close up with the brush strokes.
Yeah, it is. I was just thinking that actually, excuse me, actually that when we put things on a screen, we actually have a lot less control about how people see them. And for someone who works in the arts, and Lydia and I spend a lot of time hanging exhibitions, we have a lot of control over that space, and we're very precise about how the artwork is displayed so it looks best. When it's on screen, all that is thrown away in a way. And part of that makes me feel really frustrated, because I know artwork often looks best in a gallery when there's kind of minimal distraction. And I'm really pleased that having artwork online makes it more accessible to other people, but it does make it different. You can't see that texture. It's hard to have a label next to it that is clean and doesn't distract. And it's hard, you know, you don't sit on a comfy bench and look at your laptop screen for 30 minutes at a time. Whereas you might sit and look at a painting for half an hour if you're sitting on those squidgy gallery benches that they have.
And even discussing it with people, you know, you often go to a gallery with people, and you might discuss things there and then, or later in the coffee bar or whatever, and chat about the things that you liked and you didn't like. Well, certainly I am, you know, I'd be viewing on my own. If you live on your own, your viewing experience is different. So,
yeah, definitely. Oh, Kim, I think you have a question.
I was really fascinated by what you were saying about when you go out and you see something, you paint the bit that you're interested in, and that you forget the rest of it. And It reminded me of very early days when I was painting, when I just started painting, and I was painting outdoors, and I went to Bowlam Lake and I sat under this tree and thought I'd paint this really interesting tree, and I had my canvas and my paints all around me. I sort of looked at the tree, and then I sort of looked up and suddenly saw the most amazing sight of the light coming through the leaves, and decided that I had to try and represent that. But I also wanted to paint the tree. And I'm just wondering what you would have done in that situation, because my canvas couldn't possibly have accommodated both of those things properly. Would you in that situation have painted two paintings?
Probably. I'm not quite sure how could you get around it if not? What would the alternative be? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's weird, but that never crossed my mind. I'm just thinking about it now. It never crossed my mind to paint two paintings. In the end, I didn't have time to do two paintings. I wish I had now. I just painted the top bit, and I had to be told to stop trying to paint the bottom bit. Somebody actually had to say to me, you can't.
That'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it, to have kind of the two in one kind of, but into one image, if you like. But it would become much more abstract then.
Yeah, I think you'd have done a brilliant job. I think now that I know you're painting and I know you so well, I wish you'd been sitting beside me and done it.
I probably would have said just sketch them both and then choose whichever one you like. Choose, because one would probably have been stronger than the other. Once you sketch them, once you sketch like the basic lines, it shows what's really there, the composition, and what's. I don't know why I'm telling you this. You're my teacher.
No. I think when I paint on plein air with oil paints, I don't tend to sketch it first, and I think I need to. I think that's a really good. I tend to just make my decision about what I'm going to paint, and I go straight in.
But then again, you've got a lot of experience, so you can probably see the lines, without it. I would just do like a thumbnail, not a proper fully fledged sketch. Just literally like, where are the lines? Where's the light? Do I like that shape? No, okay, try another one.
I do. I love your sketch. I love your sketches, though. I think I think I need to do more of that.
Be embarrassed.
No. It's really inspiring, actually. And I think, I think that's because I've always been fascinated by your art and how you see things, and now I think, having seen your sketches, I understand better the process, and it's brilliant.
I just take a tiny sketchbook. Often it's not even a book. It's just sort of a piece of card, and then a nice, you get nice postcards from wherever, different places you collect them, and I'll sellotape them together and put some pieces of paper in there, and then just carry that around so it's really, really light. It even goes in your back pocket if it's tiny, in your jeans pocket, and then one pen, and you can get water from anywhere to make the pen smudge. So then you've got no excuse, and then you can sketch absolutely anywhere. So anywhere you're bored, get your sketchbook out. Time flies.
So you always take the types of pens that do that.
I prefer that.
I like to work with indelible things, so there's a difference there.
Depends what you like. I like that smudginess and the fact that they just run. And the recent thing is just spraying them and just seeing what happens, and let the water.
What maker pens do you actually use?
It's called something like, I think it's like for calligraphy. It's actually got a chip, it's got a flatter, but it's not meant for what I use it for.
Okay.
When you put water on, it just goes into different colors if you allow it to dry. You've got a little bit of pink, a little bit of blue, and obviously the black, and then the fade away. I really like that one. Sorry, I can't remember. It's worn off.
Okay.
I won't know what it is to reorder one even. I gave one to a friend and I don't think she uses it, so I might ask for it back. Yeah, I'll have to work out. I'm sure on the internet. If I find it, I'll pass it on.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Great. Are there any kind of last wrapping up kind of questions or comments or?
You said that you do stitching as well. So if you'd had more time, would you have gone into stitching it, and stitching something, and how would you have approached that?
I did. I think I sent one image of just starting to do a bit of stitch through to Gemma, but I don't know if you got those at the end. But it's not that it's anything special anyway. When I was doing the prints for the air one, I was getting some threads and beads and that kind of thing, and just to kind of emphasize the colors. So I had dripped some onto some material. I had some canvas, and I put a bit of background on, and then I was dripping some nice sort of turquoisey blue colors on. And then I thought, rather than make them actual, you know, paint the flowers or print the flowers. I was going to just kind of stitch kind of like a star shape, just to link them together and make the cascade and that idea of them flowing and traveling. So quite simple. I would probably maybe use machine embroidery as well, freehand machine embroidery, and because I feel like that's a bit more like painting but with a machine.
Yeah, thread painting. Yeah.
And maybe with layering, I've had some organza, I was laying that on top to emphasize or take away or add another bit of color, and then bits of glittery sequins, that kind of thing, to just bring out, you know, the light come through.
It's really exciting how the crossover between painting and stitching is starting to finally happen.
It is. It's so exciting. Yeah, I think that the texture and you know, textiles, collage, that's the way forward for me anyway. I love all of that.
I've got those photographs if you quickly.
Oh right, I don't know if you've got time. I know people probably.
I'll just quickly flick through them and then we can.
Thank you.
These were just the experiments. These were the beginnings of the air one. So that's the bit of stitch I was thinking about doing. I didn't develop it into, well, I've got it still to develop, but it's, yeah, I couldn't do everything.
I look forward to seeing the next.
They were the print blocks, yeah, bits of the card before I put them onto the picture. I think we've had those ones. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to show the process, that the print, I was making the print blocks from foam and then using that to make the images. Been really good fun. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for choosing me to do it.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it, and thank you so much for kind of dedicating your time to this, Linda.
Loved it.
What we're going to do now is we're actually going to hear the audio. Sharon Catton Rose's audio that she sent Linda, and we're just going to kind of hear that so we can kind of understand the process a bit more, and then we'll kind of wrap up there. And I would really encourage you to come to next week's artist lunchtime talk, which is exactly the same time, exactly the same Zoom code, and we'll feature the artist Sarah White, who will be basing her artist on Linda's audio recording. Yeah, so Lydia, if you could play the audio, that would be brilliant.
Hands will make you revere them.
When my kids were little, we used to go to a local art gallery where there was an Anish Kapoor sculpture which was mirrored. They loved it because they could see themselves in it distorted. It used to make them laugh and giggle, and they used to run round and round and round it. And when the museum attendant wasn't around, I used to let them touch it.
We can't breathe.
We write to you about the word of life, which has existed from the very beginning. We have heard it, and we have seen it with our eyes. Yes, we have seen it, and our hands have touched it.
Until my will is one with yours, to do and to endure.
I have been thinking and making about breath and hands, how touch and physicality bring life. The British Museum has handling tables so that people can touch history. During the pandemic, objects have deteriorated because there have been no visitors, and they rely on their breath for the right level of humidity. A conservative friend says that the building acts as an envelope keeping the objects. Most of these objects are in the British Museum because of colonisation, which still breathes its whisper down the generation through systemic racism. I have thought about the layers of meaning and perception between us and the divine, and also how we have all been layering up, keeping breath behind masks. How Christ was the Word made flesh, breath, to hands. How the divine became touchable and involved in the nitty-gritty of our lives, including injustices. How we can know the transcendent through the visceral. I have used prints of masks, sign language, conservation enclosure envelopes, and the 5 joyful mysteries to make an installation piece and 5 prints.
John chapter 5.
Sorry, the end bit wasn't part of the recording.
Yeah, ignore the end bit of that. Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And I hope to see you next week for the artist talk with Sarah White, who is actually a dance and performance artist. So she will be interpreting audio into visual, but potentially in a very, very different way to the artists we've already seen. Yeah, so thank you very much, and I hope to see you next week.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Bye.
Bye. Bye.